What's going on, everybody? So one of my most highly anticipated units in all of Final Fantasy is coming to War of the Visions, and his name is Vivi. I don't know if you guys remember playing Final Fantasy IX, but I feel like I struggled through most of that game. And, that game had certain battles that you were supposed to lose, but there were times where I just wasn't sure if I was supposed to lose the battle or if my team was underpowered. But then there came a point where Vivi learns both Flare and then W magic, and then you can just start wailing away with him and just casting flares and just destroying all the enemies and the bosses as well. And I think at that point, Vivi pretty much redeemed the game for me, and he helped me carry through to the end of the game, a game in which I was pretty close to quitting. But for me, Vivi's the lifesaver of that game. And so because of that, like, I have such fond memories of him, and I am willing to go all the way to pity, and I'm also willing to even fast build him to try to get him into that first week of guild match. So I am super excited to have Vivi in the game. That being said, we also have a couple of other good characters, one being Dagger, which is going to be Earth Elemental, and honestly I'm kind of feeling like they're trying to give us tools to counter Alaya necessarily, because we just keep getting back to back to back Earth units. So I feel like that's kind of part of the trend. I'm not saying she's necessarily going to be super designed to counter Alaya, but I think that's kind of where the trend is going. And Zidane, I definitely need another strong wind unit. I feel like I'm always lacking in terms of wind, but I feel like if I don't pull for him, I could definitely pull for the card, and I think that's going to be good enough for me. And then the thing though with Vivi is that we kind of already know now that the first week in JP has been Dagger and Zidane, so they're saving Vivi for that second week. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be the strongest or OP or anything like that, but I kind of feel like along with him being 100 cost and along with the vision card that he's getting, I feel like he's going to be a pretty powerful unit. The vision card doesn't always just apply to the one unit. It's usually all three, but it's going to probably be mostly for Vivi. And so the funny thing about Vivi is you can kind of think of him as like a light version of Sephiroth, like a heroic version of Sephiroth. Kind of spoilery, but in the game he sort of just questions whether he was actually a real person or whether he's made from magic, I guess, like all these other black mages that are in the game. And so he didn't end up having an evil turn, sort of like Sephiroth has, so he is still the best boy. Okay, so kind of just thinking of Vivi being dark type, I'm kind of just brainstorming of what kind of units I want to pair him together with, and I'm kind of glad to actually have a good amount of these units, but I'm also kind of looking at two of these units that are on banner right now, being Irvine and Raph, and just deciding whether it's worth going crazy and pulling for them. Definitely I gotta calm myself down so I don't go pulling for all these crazy units, but I feel like they're going to be good options to have with him regardless. I'm kind of looking at Halloween Lucia, not only because they both have matching hats, but because she actually has some pretty defensive powers, and she also just got an update recently, so I haven't really played with her much since that, but I know that she did get her Transcendence and her Limit Burst, so I actually am excited to kind of put them together and see what they can do. I think I recently just got my Dwayne to 120. I have enough Mind Spheres for 140, so he is another pretty decent option. I'm kind of just thinking who's going to be a bodyguard for my Vivi, because I want him to just live forever. I think from what we've heard, he has re-raise, and re-raise dispel nullification, so I think he's going to be able to survive a little bit, but I feel like he's going to need a little bit of protection as well. And of course we have Dark Fina and Sephiroth, which are just going to be good partners in terms of DPS and in terms of utility. So I think the one person that's not super popular is going to be Bronwell. She is hopefully coming soon. I was kind of taking a look at her kit, and she actually seems like she's not going to be that bad. So let's take a little bit of a look at her. The first things first is that she's going to be a 70 cost, so it might be that she's actually easy to pull, between us getting like those free daily tickets, we might get a 9-step guaranteed, and the paid viz ticket and all that stuff. So I feel like this might be something good to consider. And then looking at her kit, she actually has some pretty decent things. I think the one thing to note is that she does have Paladin with Taunting Blade, so she can generate hate, but she does not have Immortal Spirit, so she doesn't have a way to put Courage. But that's all good because we still have units like Addison Ray, which are super good, and they can provide us with a Courage, so that's not going to be that much of a problem. But starting from the top, her LB has both this new kind of ability. She's not the first one to have it, but she's one of the first, where she does, damage to the enemy, and then the enemy gets lowered defensive penetration and lowered spirit penetration. So a lot of weapons and VCs and trust stones nowadays have a lot of that stuff already built in. So that's going to be helpful in sort of reducing the damage just by playing onto that one factor. And also now that the trust stones are going to be a lot easier to use, I think we're going to be seeing that a lot more. So definitely something that's going to be useful for, to protect the rest of the team. She's going to have her own physical barrier, pretty much like Saintly Wall, where you have to take the 3 hits. She's going to have the ability to break those kind of barriers. So she's going to have she's really like a support unit. That she's going to be dispelling things. She's going to be putting stuff on herself, and she's going to be helping the teammates as well. She has an attack that also decreases the enemy attack. She's got an AoE regen for the party, and then she has a self ability, which is like her limit burst, where she can lower defensive penetration on hit. So that's going to be very interesting. And then she has the spell protect and shell, so that's going to help enable some more damage. Forgot what I was going to say. So let's just keep going. So I was kind of looking, okay, so Vivi's going to be a staff user, and I was kind of just looking at the staff users. I'm like, oh wow, there's actually some pretty good partners here. So Xiaoze is another one that can add courage to your team, and then Saul is just like a pretty good, I don't know if you guys have gone against him in arena or class match, but he's like really good. He heals like mid battle, like mid attacking and everything. So yeah, he's pretty good. And then we have 2 other dark units, which are going to be pretty good, I think. But the problem that I realized is that when it comes to these specific units, they're actually understaffed Devout, etc., where we assume that Vivi's going to be understaffed Black Mage. So there's not going to be much overlap with the VCs. The SR and below cards, there's overlap, but for the above cards, they kind of, I guess they kind of want you to team with different unit types, like not necessarily magic users, but physical users as well. So they kind of went and separated this. I wasn't really thinking of staff like this because I never really used those cards. I'm mostly using like the glove. I mean, maybe I use the cards, but I'm mostly using like glove and book units most of the time. So I didn't even realize that was like a separation like that. However, there's some other mages that are, black mages that also use staff, which may, pair decently. 2 of them are limited, so like most of us might not have access to them. But also, I kind of am not really super sure if they're going to be able to team with a dark member that well. We'll have to really see how they play out, honestly. But I think Lemore is definitely a good choice when it comes to support, healing, and time H capabilities. So definitely she's a good one there. And Dark Fiend is just going to be a good partner for DPS, so not too bad. And then Skull, he's kind of on there, but I'm really not sure how well he works with different elements. I know he does have that courage thing, but I'm not entirely sure how well he plays between the different units. So going back to that staff devout group there, I was kind of looking at Golbez, and his kit seems pretty good. Right now, he's not pretty good, but once we get the Pixel Remaster, he's going to have a couple of different abilities. JP already has that, so lucky for them. One thing to highlight is that second one there, which definitely comes from the Pixel Remaster, which is decreased defense penetration. It's going to be the same thing as Bronwell, but his ability is going to have 2 uses, so he's going to be able to do that directly instead of having the second one be on hit. So that's going to be the difference there. And I remember what I was going to say for Bronwell is that she has the same sub job as Christmas Ravias. So yeah, they're kind of different but similar. So that might be a way to kind of get an idea of how Bronwell works. So looking at his LB, he's going to have increased defense and dark resistance on top of his attack for himself. He's going to have law preservation, which increases his defense and defense debuff, and I think all elemental debuff. He's also going to have an AoE increase as part of Scholar. So law preservation is also Scholar. So I think that's probably going to be the choice for him. He's going to have a re-raise the spell, but unfortunately he doesn't really have Paladin, so he doesn't have hate generation. He doesn't really have courage or re-raise. I mean, there's other ways to put that on him, but you know, it's kind of just an idea of someone you can potentially use with VV. And then I didn't mention the defense passives. He's going to have 2 different defense passives, so he can get pretty defensy. I think he'd be pretty good as a physical defense. But yeah, he doesn't have like built-in courage or re-raise, so that might be like a little bit of an issue. Okay, so the other thing that they announced during the live stream is this alternate, this not even alternate, just like a past story that we got. We pretty much got some of it from one of the events, but we kind of already know some of this history of like Black Rose Helena, young Elda. But it's interesting to see like teenager Mont and Stern there. I don't think Mont, Stern, and Glaciella are going to be units. I kind of hope not, because I feel like we have enough Glaciellas and Sterns. But I mean, if they could come from a single pull ticket, then yeah, I'll take them. But honestly, I'm kind of more interested in seeing some of these under units, especially Sir O there, and Curry. I think they're probably the ones I'm looking forward to the most. Mostly just to see Sir O be like a badass 100 cost unit and sort of teach things to Stern and whatnot. King Curry in this picture, he doesn't necessarily seem evil, so I'm kind of wondering if we're going to see like a good side of him, or like this is where he becomes a bad guy. But honestly, knowing King Curry, he just feels like an innately evil character, so I don't know about that. But we do know that Glaciella's mom, so I guess Glaciella and her sisters are half sisters or something like that. So we kind of like already can assume that something bad is going to happen between Curry and Glaciella's mom. So this is probably where he becomes evil. And then sort of the last one there is Moraga in the back. I was not expecting to see him of all people. I was kind of hoping to see like before he gets corrupted by that like monster Esper that he becomes. But it looks like he's kind of already evil here. So, maybe there's still a chance of it being before that, because I guess that was part of the armor. I don't remember if he got the armor from Sadali or someone like that, but he's not wearing the helmet here, so that might be part of it. Then I'm happy to see Elda might actually get a good unit now. Elda's never really been popular or anything like that, so yeah. And then Helena kind of feels like too similar to Black Rose Helena. I mean, I think they're definitely going to change her kit and she's going to be light type, but she's just so similar to me, like it doesn't make me excited to pull for her. Whereas you see someone like Stern like become like evil, and then like Wing Stern, so like those ones are all so different in the story and everything. So it's kind of, for me, it's good to see stuff like that. And then last but not least is sort of my hit list. Just kind of thinking of VV being someone that I'd be willing to just shell out money for. I'm kind of just thinking like, who else would I want to see in this game? And I kind of just made this like a tier list where, the top line is probably the people who I would shell out money for. Starting from the left is probably the people that I want the most. And then, the rest of them are kind of, they're kind of just there. I kind of just threw this together. So, yeah, the second line I'd probably definitely pull for. Then the other ones, the third and fourth, it kind of depends on their kit and, the art and how much I like the character before I decide to pull on them. So I think maybe up to like either Sid or Kimari, I'm definitely willing to pull. I would also say Zac too, but like I've been using Zac in Ever Crisis, and if it wasn't for that, I'd probably be a little bit more gung ho about pulling for him. But I feel like I'm kind of like already used to him, so it's a little less exciting to pull for him. I don't know. We'll have to see. But other than that, though, I feel like this game has been improving in many different ways. I'm glad that we had a pretty good 3.5 anniversary and we're having a pretty good 4th anniversary. So all that stuff is looking pretty good. All the changes that we're getting with the trust stones and whatnot, that stuff is looking pretty good. I know that we're still not even really at, even though we're at worldwide, we're still behind JP. We still don't have, we just got Melnia. We still don't have Bronwell and that MR unit, and we still don't have Astrius or any mention of him. So it's still a little bit of a struggle, but other than the condensed unit schedule, I think everything else is going pretty well. And there's some announcements that were made that are sounding pretty good, so I'm pretty happy about that. So all in all, I think the game for me is doing pretty well. So I'm just excited to see more and more stuff, and even just to get the stuff that's already been announced. Oh, and the new Crystal Warrior thing with like Dario and Shadow Links and stuff like that. I can't believe that actually came true, so that's also looking pretty good. Anyway, let me end there, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.